fucking awesome. Come on, it's gonna be fucking awesome. You know the words. It's gonna be fucking awesome. That's it, see. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Yeah!
Hello. Coolest Geek Alive here. Jesse Blaze Snyder. How you doing, everybody? There is a super cool article that came out that I saw on the Twitters. It's from Bounding Into Comics. It is written by John F. Trent, and it features a number of quotes from a number of different creators, all talking about Marvel fatigue and superhero fatigue and DC fatigue and all this stuff. And, I really wanted to talk about that as a subject of just, this superhero fatigue thing. Is it real? Because my position on it has, I think, recently changed for myself as I've analyzed this thing more and more. And the most interesting thing about this article, which was called BattleTech Novelist Blaine Pardoe Obliterates, quote, superhero fatigue narrative, puts blame squarely on Hollywood studios. And this is just so interesting to me. This guy, he's a novelist or whatever, and he writes these future sci-fi military kind of things. But he's a military historian. That's the type of writer that you want in, your military and war things. Somebody who's really into the subject matter, that can be someone who bases the things that they write on reality. Or imagined reality, what bases it on real world things that exist, so that you're not only enjoying something, but you're being reintroduced to some wonderful aspect of the world that you maybe knew about, but you didn't know about in this deep way that this person who's researched this thing does know about. I had a wonderful chat with my girlfriend's dad the other day. He's a 35-year veteran of the LAPD and lover of sci-fi. He and I are just always chatting about the latest, geek culture release or whatever else. He really loves that stuff, but has generally felt like so disappointed in what's been made for so long. And we were talking about how many wonderful writers there are that are police officers, because know it or not, cops spend a lot of their working life writing. They have to write reports just all the time on all these things. I mean, I really like. I got a whiff of it a long time ago when I'm like, wait a second, everything that happens in a police officer's day, he has to write it down in great detail. Like, oh, screw that, man. I don't have to do that. Because I think there was a moment in time probably when I was thinking, maybe I'd be a cop. That could be cool. I'm like, I don't want to write about everything. This is all of the minutia of my day. Ugh, don't like that. But cops write a lot, and one of the most amazing things about writing a lot is you get better at it. Specifically speaking, cops have to write about descriptions of things, describing things. When you're a comic book writer, that's all I'm doing all the time. I'm trying to describe things as best I can to my artist. And it's really a nuanced procedure as you describe something to your artist that you want them to draw in a comic book, right? Because especially if you have a really good artist, you don't want to get in their way. So you need to say things in ways that are rather open-ended so you can allow them to interpret the image, but you need to give them all the pertinent information of what needs to be in that image. Learning how to sculpt and quickly surmise. Oops, sorry, I'm having to belch again. I'm like, ugh. Sorry. Well, you know, I was gonna like, do I go back and like cut this out? I don't think I belched into the microphone or anything, but it just sounds more naturally when you do it like this. Anyway, what was I talking about? Working with an artist and doing, getting the best out of them. You want them to have wiggle room to interpret the things that you're checking out. And and I was gonna say, and the police officers, they are refining their ability to quickly sum up various things. And that is really the art of communication. So he was saying, cops are good writers, man. And one wonderful example of this that we both immediately were starting to shake our head to, I was like, yeah, because he's not the only one. But Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, one of my heroes, he was a police officer before he became a writer, a very successful writer who created Star Trek. Prior to that, he was known for doing cop shows. I think not just like one or two big shows, but like a number of them. And then Star Trek was this like, big idea that he had kind of thing. But Roddenberry is a wonderful example of that. And yeah, George, my girl's dad, he's on the money. Cops are good writers. Generally speaking, the writers on these shows and stuff, they used to be much younger. I mean, sorry, not much younger. They used to be much older. They're much younger now. It's like everybody's hip. Like we're getting all these like hip people. It used to be, and I didn't like it because it was a bit of like a, well, have you paid all your dues kind of thing. Life and all of the systems that exist tend to be very much like, people don't like it unless they can define it in some different levels. Like I'm this level and you're this level and I'm this level. Because I'm this level, I can talk down to you because you're that level. And these are just unfortunate things that people do to make themselves feel like big and strong. People have this hierarchy thing that they want to try to play out. And it happens all the time in life. I mean, like the writers' rooms, these head writers, they have a prestigious position. Like think about this. You've got a writer's room and there's 10 or 20 writers in it and there's one head writer, right? One head writer. Maybe there's an assistant to the head writer, right? How many jobs in these writer rooms are for the head writer and how many jobs are available for the writers? Most of the people are just writers, and certain people get into that writer's room head guy position, and then they become like custodians of keeping that thing. Or I should say really gatekeepers of that thing, making sure that other people, only get in the right way. And now you have your upper echelon peers deciding whether or not you deserve to come up through the ranks of life, which is freaking aggravating. And it would hold so many wonderful creative people back. And this was the old system. Now we have a new system where all the young people are being brought up immediately. And the people who are the most aggressive and play the politic game the best are the people who are getting all of the work, and they are not the talented ones. I'm sorry to say, I'm telling you, the people who are really empathetic and cool and spend the longest with their craft, we tend to be shut-ins a little bit. We're a little shy. I know it doesn't seem like I'm shy as I come and I run my mouth off, every week here, but like, I'm certainly meek in a lot of my own ways, and am very uncomfortable and slow to pitch myself and get myself work when I go out in comics. It used to take me so long to get things going with editors because I didn't like to be I didn't like to treat them like objects. Because there were all these people who were editors who had the ability to give me work, and I wanted the work, but I didn't want to get the work by going through them. So I decided I was going to try to like befriend them. And, but I didn't think like you would just get a little bit of time with them at different conventions. So I would get time with them at one convention, and then I'd get time with them at another convention. And then at the third convention, if things were still going good, I'd be like, "Hey, can I pitch you something?" But literally, I had to see the person like 3 times before I would even try to do anything. And if like it if it didn't really seem like we were a good fit, like, and we were going to be friends or something, like, because I just didn't want to use a person. And it's really tough. These are the systems that we go through. But if you're somebody who doesn't mind getting through somebody, and and you think about it more like, the way that I do think about it, and I did eventually get better by thinking, I promise I'm going to do the best job for them that I can. And and that's one way to get through doing it, and other people have other ways, and and some people are just really bold. But when you're a creative person, unfortunately, you also have, if you want to be successful, you also have to be super fucking bold and a whole bunch of other things, like good with your money and whatnot, because it's okay to be a creative person, but you also need to be able to, like, take care of yourself and get yourself work. And the people who get themselves work and take care of themselves the best are the ones who are really bold. Like, it's like talent second to bold. So you got to be bold and talented. That's like, it's really important. I mean, like, if you're not bold, I like, seriously, I've been shy on so many levels. It's been the bane of my career, because I put everything into my art, into my craft, into learning how to be a great writer, learning how to do it good. When I got into voiceover and I realized that I was going to be a voiceover actor, I took classes and really got good at being a voiceover actor, listening to commercials and getting my head around what each individual role required. And by that, I mean the different industries, because I worked as a voiceover actor. I do narration still. I'm the voice of Food Paradise, which has just been on hiatus with the Discovery Warner Brothers merger. Everything's been crazy over there. I do lots of commercials. I've been the voice of Pizza Hut. What is it? Want more taste? Get America's favorite pizza. Pizza Hut, now online. I was the voice of Pizza Hut for like 2 or 3 years. And right after Queen Latifah. Voice of GameStop as well. Pre-order Madden, get good sooner. GameStop, power to the players. I was the voice of Cheetos, baked Cheetos snacks, deliciously crunchy, dangerously cheesy. And I was the voice of, more recently, Kia Motors, which was buying a Kia is one smart move. And then I also did video games, which is like a totally different thing. And I did some animation as a totally different thing. And books on tape, totally different thing. And I learned the craft. That's where I put my time. And you put your time in those places when you're a bit shy and you're not going out all the time. And you've got a steady girlfriend because, you're too uncomfortable to not, like, have a person, and not like, you're not like just going out all the time looking and dating and doing whatever, you're trying to settle down and you're trying to get good at what you're doing, and you're like when you really get super focused and stuff, it's great. Like, those are the people who you want working for you. But unfortunately, when we get really focused as artists, we forget about all the other things. We forget about, really taking care of our finances, and we forget about doing our taxes, and we forget about, pitching ourselves for work and hustling and going to the places that we need to go to, because we've got a little bit of, phobia of crowds and stuff, and we get a little overwhelmed, and we know that we're supposed to charm people and all these things because we need to get work and we want to work. But like, just because we want to work and we're good and we should work doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to be the most charming, and we're going to those are different qualities than being great at whatever your craft may be. So there's just these additional qualities that people need. And because this changeover between this writer's room driven older people who are like holding the gate, switch over to these young people, it's just been complete shit, because just all of a sudden young people, these young people who are hiring these young people, they don't know how to differentiate between who's the good writers here and who isn't. And they're young people too. They were hired because they want the producers. We want to make sure that we're appealing to the kids, so we want these young people to come in here and to tell us what to do for the children. That's what we want. And now these young people who have no idea if they have good taste, they have no idea if they're going to make the right decisions, and there's high turnover rate in these positions. So these people are always like panicking. They're always hedging their bet. They're being very, very nervous. They end up hiring usually their friends, their drinking buddies, the people they go out with. If you're an editor in comics, like I literally started drinking. I was straight edge until I was 28. 28 years old, I started smoking marijuana, which was very helpful to me because I had anxiety and I didn't know that I did literally until I smoked marijuana and I calmed down. And actually, generally, marijuana for me like is a what do you call it? I'm a little bit more normal when I'm on marijuana, like because I'm generally a little hyper, a little anxious. Even though I've gotten better as the years have gone on, and also I started drinking alcohol. Because and it was suggested to me the marijuana thing while I was starting to drink alcohol was the idea initially. My brothers knew that I had anxiety and they were like, I think marijuana would help you, and it did. And if you have anxiety and you're out there, I really do recommend trying a little bit of cannabis. It was very, very helpful to me and helped me long term get myself, my inner self more comfortable with itself and help me relax and I do recommend it. But all of that came about because of alcohol, which was something I was literally doing to help me get more work in comics because I saw that the drinking buddies were the people who were getting hired by all of these editors who I was trying to court. I'm like, oh, well, like I saw him and they were drinking together and I told him no and I kind of saw his face drop. He's like, can I buy you a beer? And I went, oh, no, I don't drink. And his face went, oh, you don't drink? Maybe you're judging me for drinking. Like, ugh, like, and I like felt that. So like a few too many times of that situation happening because I wasn't trying to like judge anybody. I just was raised not to drink and I didn't drink and I don't really like the taste of alcohol, so I would always drink water and stuff. But these little things, they do make people unhappy and prevent people from getting hired sometimes, whatever else. But it's those people who can drink right alongside that editor that's there to work with them and get stuff together. Because generally speaking, these editors are doing a lot more creative thinking than you imagine, whether it's comics or whether you're looking at films, television, books. Like, there's a certain amount of feedback and interfering that'll come from your editors. And I don't mean to say that so disrespectfully, because I have some editors, like, I work with editors who are wonderful, and there are some editors who can really give you some fabulous feedback. But often you get really useless feedback from your editors, things that are detrimental to what you're doing, and it just ends up being clashing of ideas or whatever. But generally speaking, the people who are dictating things, they don't know exactly how to do it, so they comment from the place of not doing it. Some of the best editors that I know are writers themselves. Those really wonderful writers like Aaron Sparrow, I always talk about. Aaron's one of my best friends. He was editor at Boom Studios. He's a wonderful writer, so he recognizes wonderful writing when he finds it. And he doesn't get in the way of wonderful writers when they're doing their thing. He does enhance and suggest and help to make the thing even better. But like that's really the thing. If you're somebody who's an editor or somebody, whatever, you're bringing up artists and you're trying to find things. You want to try to go with your taste. You want to try to go with what like you love, what feels really good. You're like, oh man, like this guy just makes me feel good. And then you want to try to get the people that like you feel like, I trust that these people are capable of doing something wonderful with this. And then you want to guide them in whatever way, hey, it'd be great if we could start here. It'd be great if we could end here. It'd be great if this could be about approximately this. And then get the fuck out of the way and let those people do their thing and just like leave them alone until it's done. Like just set up the parameters and then move out of the way, and then trust whatever you get is going to be wonderful because you picked the right people that you felt strong fire about. And that's really all there is to it. Try not to overthink it beyond that. I did a wonderful project that is really proof of it. It's called Blacklight District, 6 issues. It's available for free at www.blacklightdistrict.co because I couldn't afford the M at the time. And you can see the 6 comic books. They're short. They're very short comic books. They're lyric comic books for this music thing that I did. It's a little album that was inspired by comic books. And then we did these 6 different comic books. And there's Jason Pearson and Phil Hester and J.K. Woodward. We've got just incredible creative people on it. And it's beautiful. It's the only thing I've ever worked on in my life that I would call perfect. And it is perfect because I got out of the way, it's crazy. My name's on it, and I'm just getting credit though, because for this perfect thing, because I got out of the way. Like I said, you aim these guns at the target. You go, that's the target over there. You don't aim it yourself. You go, that's the target. You tell them what the target is, and then you go, fire, and you get out of the way, and then you accept graciously what they've fired. And generally speaking, I promise you, when that sort of freedom is given, you're always going to get the best stuff. When you're seeing people do good work, often it's them working with constraints that are making them very aggravated with their project in one way or another. And then, you go, oh, I really loved it. And they're like, oh, yeah, you did? All right, well, people loved it despite all the constraints I was working with, working on Toy Story and, and some of these other, the Muppets, when somebody gives me compliments, or Dead Romeo in particular is a really hard one. I did that book for DC. And when people give me compliments about it, I'm just sort of ugh. But it's because my story got changed so much by editorial. And by the time it finished, I was way less excited about it, and feel like I missed a couple things because of all the changes that they made me make, and it's not as strong as it could have been if I had some better perspective on it. So it really wrecks me, because I'm such a perfectionist, and I really do feel like Hulk, which was one of my first books, or the second book I put out, the Hulk Slave to the Grind. Well, that's what I called it. It's called Let the Battle Begin. Other than the title, I think that Hulk book, I did it with Steve Kurth, is really phenomenal. I think it's really, I'm very proud of that book. If you seek it out, Hulk Let the Battle Begin. It's got this backup story in it that is beautiful, but it stinks on ice, this freaking story. But my story it was supposed to be called Hulk, Bruce Banner and the Incredible Hulk in Slave to the Grind. And it was basically about how Bruce Banner goes from, naked in the desert in his purple pants to, back with his glasses and hanging out doing Bruce Banner things, what's the process. And it was a really kind of comedic and a little bit of action and a lot of comedy and just kind of character. And I was very proud of it. I worked really hard on my dad's favorite character as the Hulk, and I wanted to do something cool. And I'm proud of that. The Deadpool story that I did was Marco Cicchetto. It was Marco Cicchetto's first work at Marvel. It was my first work at Marvel. Marco, he elevated the hell out of my script. I was sort of shocked by it when I first saw it, and wasn't sure if I liked it. And then I was like, oh my God, wait a second. I think I love it. And I do. It's great. And, I feel really proud of how that came out. The only problem with how that came out was it took freaking 3 years to come out. And I was trying to kick off a career in comics, and I didn't have any proof that I was a professional because of how long it was taking everything to get published. It took another 3 years for my Hulk book to come out. My Hulk book came out in the middle of when I was working on Toy Story, which was after I was done working at DC, which is this is the crazy thing. So, when I got to Dead Romeo, and that one got ripped apart in so many ways, and it was my first 6-issue miniseries, and editorial just eats into this thing. You just get so self-conscious. So, but people go, oh man, I love it, because they see what they see. They don't see the whole situation that, you're dealing with on the other side. I mean, that's it. The actual way the sausage is made when you're a creative person is crazy. And when you're a creative person and a fan in particular is really where things go wrong. Because when the fans go up against the establishments, they don't want to be wrong. They don't want to admit they're wrong. They all want to have good PR and all this shit. So a lot of these people get by on towing the company line. So if you're a really authentic person like I am, you don't do that shit. You don't play those games. Which is why I tend to be an independent contractor, because I just like I'm always going to be real about the things that I love, and I tend not to focus on the bad stuff, and I'm not like somebody who's like, well, I focus sometimes on the bad stuff. I go, yeah, okay, you're laughing at me. Shut up. But it's because I want it to be better. I believe it can be better. It's not even I believe that it can be better. We deserve better. And that I feel like things have taken a step down in quality over the past like 2 decades, slowly but surely. And there's really a loss to the art form, and it's from this younger generation, and it's also from this superficial culture that I want to talk about, because this is the thing. And I'm a pretty knowledgeable guy. When you're on a journey of perpetual learning and you're just always absorbing information, you get to a point where it's hard to sort of surprise you, or difficult for you to come across information that really like, wow, like, says something that like, that you've neglected to get. Because most of the time you get new information, but it's just sort of like an enriching of things that you already knew. You find out one more detail about Star Wars, or one more detail about movie making, or one more thing about whatever. But something that really is like oh wow, that's like a perspective and a paradigm shift that I'd never heard before, that really changes the way I'm thinking about things. And this is one, and I was like, whoa, I want to talk about this. The BattleTech, I'm just going to read this article, and we'll probably go through the whole thing. I don't know if we'll get through the whole thing, but we'll do a bunch of it. So BattleTech novelist Blaine Pardoe did not mince any words when he shared his thoughts about the recent superhero fatigue narrative that has been making the rounds in the press. The idea of superhero fatigue is that there's just too many superhero movies and TV shows out there, and audiences have grown weary of films and TV shows featuring superheroes. However, Pardoe believes the whole idea is bunk and is an excuse for movie studios to blame audiences for their terrible movies. Yeah, yeah, what do I always say? He wrote on X. Oh, fucking X. It's funny when they say that now, I'm like, wrote on X? What is X? Fucking Twitter. Just change to X. Fucking X. Why'd you do that, Elon Musk? It's very annoying. He wrote on X, superhero fatigue is the production companies blaming the fan base for their failure to produce what the fans actually want. End quote. Beautiful. Now, that's not the thing. And the voice here that's writing this thing, this is John F. Trent, who wrote this thing. It was an article on Bounding Into Comics. I don't usually like cover a whole article like this, but since I am, I want to make sure I say who they are, just because it's just a lovely collection of quotes. So, like I said, I'll go through as much of it as makes sense. But so he's got that great quote. It's amazing. That's exactly it. Superhero fatigue is the production companies blaming the fan base for their failure to produce what the fans actually want. But that's not the piece of info that's super cool. But I'm just going to read this here real quick. Pardoe is not alone in his assessment. Novelist Declan Finn, known for his White Ops series. Oh, okay, well, this is the okay, so the Blaine Pardoe guy is... Okay. All right. I don't know. I'm going to find the information. Oh, okay. All right. See, I'm fine. I'm realizing this as I'm reading it to you right now. It looks like there's actually 2 different people who are, sort of being talked about here. And the one that I was talking about is the Pardoe, but it's actually novelist Declan Finn, known for his White Ops series and his St. Tommy NYPD series, shared his thoughts on so-called superhero fatigue back in September while reacting to Steven Spielberg's assessment that superhero films will eventually exit the zeitgeist much like Westerns did. Okay, so this is the one that I wanted to share. Finn wrote, "Yes, sadly, but not because it's going to be overdone or worn out. This isn't superhero fatigue. There was no cowboy fatigue." He explained, what happened to the Westerns is that in the early 60s, watch old cowboy TV series, you can see it happen. Writers couldn't relate to the heroic, manly man as anything other than a hollow, evil, conniving villain. They didn't want heroes, they wanted anti-heroes, he elaborated. They didn't want people to look up to and aspire to be like. They wanted people who were so full of fail that they could feel good about themselves in comparison. Oh, snap. Dude, this is the thing. This is, I see this happening in all these things. It's this superficial culture. The people who are drawn to the superficial culture, I'm not drawn to the superficial culture, but I'm like this too. They're a little afraid that like people aren't gonna like them. You know, they're nervous. They want to be popular. They want people to like them, and they're scared. And and that wanting people to like me and I'm scared tends to keep me a little bit away from people sometimes, especially when you've had some bad experiences. But this sort of operating thing where everybody's injecting their lips with Botox and trying to keep up with the Kardashians, kind of shit. This world, this superficial world, they don't get superheroes. I've been saying it about Warner Brothers for ages that I think they're such corporate mongering lizard people that Superman, somebody who's completely altruistic, like they make every DC superhero more like Batman, as much like Batman as possible, because Batman's the moneymaker. Well, Batman happens to be the one that's cool and hip right now, but Superman never goes out of style, and Superman will be more popular in the future. And what this man here, this novelist, is saying, he said that cowboy stuff, it was so freaking popular. People loved that stuff. These heroes doing heroic things. And he says you can go back and watch it happen. The change over time. All of these cowboys became yucky nightmare people because the petty writers didn't want to write about people who were good. They basically had all the same, arguments or attitudes of the people who defend Man of Steel tooth and claw, of just like, it's okay to kill. Like, no, like here's the white hat cowboys are the good guys and those are the bad guys, and here's the thing, and it's a battle of good and evil. That's what we want from our superhero films. And then what's going on right now, identity politics is getting brought into the thing, and it's becoming about sex. Like, the gay LGBTQ, whatever, like, it's like, it doesn't matter. In the context of these comic books, none of that matters. Peter Parker and Mary Jane, if the roles were reversed, the stories don't change. If Mary Jane was a dude, and it was Marco Jacob or something, it wouldn't change the stories one iota. And yet when they make a change and make somebody a member of the LGBT community, what ends up happening invariably is the stories start to revolve around their sex lives. And what are you doing? That's not what these things are about. That's not why we're watching them. Again, this is the injection so much of mainstream Hollywood and their entertainment stuff. They like the fucking Kardashians. People who were ready to vote for Bernie Sanders, and there was tons of us who were, at the time, because I just want an authentic person, and I'm willing to give anybody who will be authentic and I think won't lie to me a chance. And I thought Bernie's heart was in the right place, and a lot of people did. And those people, we don't care about the freaking Kardashians. We were picking Bernie based on his ideas, and there's lots of us who pick people based on their ideas. And, and I know, I'm sorry, I freaking probably set a whole bunch of you off in the audience. Bernie Sanders, he's a socialist, whatever. Dude, many different ideas can work here on planet Earth. Anyone can be the right idea if we can all agree upon it, So if a lot of us can agree to back Bernie and we can all make some progress and we all go, hey, this is going pretty good, then great. If it's not going good, then we'll try something else. But I think try something else has been the word of the day, as Donald Trump has come to power. Let's try something else. So certainly, look, we're back to Biden, back to the old, good old thing that we had before. Still sucks forevermore. Like I said, we need something different. So this is crazy. It's this superficial culture that's driving all of these things. And to hear this, that the Westerns, it was the writers and a change in how the Westerns were being written that made it go away. Isn't that interesting? People didn't like them anymore. They liked them when they were heroes. They liked them when they were good. But the writers who had a more, you imagine like city people having to write about cowboys all the time. These tough people are tough as nails and they're not tough. And it's funny, I don't want to compliment myself. I know I do it all the time. I'm a fucking idiot. I'm sorry. I don't mean that. I believe in being positive about yourself, but I have some practical toughness in my life. I mean, I got hit by a car when I was 11, and so I've been in like quiet chronic pain, not knowing it until I was 30, and then the chronic pain became very prevalent. So used to pain, and I'm a national champion semi-pro football player. I've been playing football and contact sports my whole life, so I'm into and used to roughhousing and having a good time and smashing my body into people, and getting hurt, no big deal. I used to BMX and play lacrosse and so much stuff. I deal with tough guys. I have to get into altercations with tough guys in the locker room, growing up in high school, all these things. Like, this is like stuff that you deal with when you want to have testosterone and do testosterone things, play hockey or whatever else. So I've been in these situations, and I've had to think about these situations and wrap my head around these things. So when I have to write a fight, it's not like impossible to do so. And I'm not going to throw this writer under the bus, but I'll say there was a series that was done, and it was by a major name that I could name, and you'd be like, oh yeah, they're great. And they are great. Generally, they're great. But they had to write these two badass characters in a team-up thing, because it was a team-up series that the book was about. And the rest of the series was pretty good. And then they get to this thing where they had to write the two most badass characters that anybody could talk about. And it was just like the stupidest goof fest you've ever freaking seen in your life, and you just immediately read it if you've dealt with any bit of testosterone in your life, and you just go, oh my god, this person's never been in a fight, he's never been in an altercation with another man in his entire life, and if he has, it was just like his little brother going meh, 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 meh. Like, he doesn't know how to present himself tough, and he can't write these characters as tough characters because he doesn't know how to do it. So these people who get forced often when you're like, oh, well, the work is there's a series and we need writers. Okay, I want a job, so I'll get hired for that superhero show, but I don't really like superheroes. Or I'll get hired for that Witcher series, but I don't really like that Witcher series, and I don't really think it's good, and I'd like to change it in this way and that way and this way. And that's what's going on. It's all these people who are getting hired, and they want to change the things in various ways to make it creative experiences for themselves, instead of them honoring whatever the fuck it is that they've been hired to write in the first place, which is what your job is. So let me go on here and see a little bit more what we got. With these characters inserted into the Western genre, Fizz posits that the viewing public rejected it and stopped watching the genre. But the viewing public, he says, hated that and wanted their heroes back. So they quit watching Westerns and turned to doctor shows where the doctors were still allowed to be heroes. Yeah, I know about that change, the change over to the doctor shows. And when he said the doctors are heroes, that really put a lightning bolt up my ass. I'm like, what does everybody love, man? Heroes. Every film has a protagonist. It's some version of a hero. But so many of the writers, they tend to be really dour and we're geeks. I try to be adventurous and other things because I think it comes through in the writing. And so often you're writing about adventurous people. It pays to fucking be a little bit a part of that world of sports and adventure. Going places and doing things. If you don't go places and you don't do things and you're not really adventurous anyway, what the fuck do you know about writing some adventurous character? And I mean, this stuff's happening all the time. But there are people, who have been detectives and been police officers and had to get into altercations with people and run and knock people down. And they know how to write a report about those things that happened. And they can remember shit that these kids said to them because it freaking happened while their adrenaline was pumping. And that moment is marked into their memories for all time. And now you got dialogue in television shows that is actually based on real world events and shit. I mean, that's the cool thing about having writers who have experience. Like literally, like these fucking people who go to college for writing and then like come out immediately and are getting hired on these shows and stuff. Like it's kind of crazy to me. I mean, like, granted, I started getting hired relatively quickly, but I think the quality of my work was pretty high. I've been writing since I was very young. And, I put a lot of time into it. And I left college early to go and have experiences working in television and hosting and having to, kind of produce myself in segments and various things. There was a lot of real world experience that was going into my life across the board that I don't think most of these people have, and I've been very lucky. It's like stupid that because people go, what was it like growing up a child of a rock star? I got to go some places, I got to see some things, some interesting things. I got to have some experiences that other people don't get to have. There was lots of little downsides or whatever, but I mean the upsides of just being able to have that experience, to be able to offer it as a writer, especially for me, just as somebody who like I gotta be able to come up with stuff. Well, come up with stuff. You got to be able to have some experiences to know what happens when you go out in the world to varying degrees and understand the world. And granted, you can learn a lot from books, and I do, reading is great, but practical experience in the world is huge because, made up reality and reality are two different things, and you can't differentiate between them if you haven't lived any life. So let's see, what's here? What else we got? No doctors. He went on to posit this also occurred in science fiction publishing. It's exactly what happened later with science fiction publishing. No heroes, only social messaging. From there, Finn shared an analogy to what they did to Westerns, science fiction publishing, and are currently doing to superheroes. It's as though a small group of people take over something thriving and drive it directly into the ground, trying to, quote, improve it. Like a certain fictional character inventing broccoli-flavored bubblegum for kids who don't like candy, complete with trading cards of great moments in opera, end quote. This is exactly what I said in the very first episode of our show in my Geek State of the Union address. What you're changing it because you think somehow you can improve upon it. And that is the notion. There's no, don't worry, we'll take this and we know what to do with this. They've got stuff that is already good, is already working, and they're going to break it because they don't know what already good, already working looks like. He continued, soon there are only a select few of matching tastes that are buying or trading, and they think they're the entire world. They vote best opera trading card of the year amongst their tiny number, and are very thrilled with each other. Finn then declared, we're not seeing superhero fatigue, we're seeing Brie Larson and crap writing, but I repeat myself all year long. So, dude, like what he just said there is the group that is the noisiest becomes the matching taste makers who set up award shows and keep honoring and touting and set up Twitter accounts and loudly voicing their minority opinion and steer the ship away from the center where everybody's happy. Like that's like nobody's going, hey man, get all these gays out of the comics. Nobody's saying that at all. Everybody's going, okay, cool. Can we handle this in a better way? Instead of turning characters that we've gotten to know very deeply for very long periods of time, especially a character like Adam Scott Green Lantern or who is it in Marvel that they made gay? Oh, Iceman. I'm like, that character's been around a long time. Both of them. The other one's a father of two. His son's gay. Alan Scott's son is gay. Obsidian. And he's got a daughter, Jade. And then, or somebody even like Tim Drake, who's been around less long, but still, Tim Drake is a beloved character who's very, very well worn in the DC universe and is a part of very many wonderful stories where clearly that was never the intent. And it's just when you make these changes, it's just very jarring and strange. And it's very easy for these things to be handled well and new characters to be introduced that will probably love. Diversity is really great. Having gay characters is cool, and you'll end up using them because you can juxtapose them with the straight characters and have the different experiences that they're having play a part in your dialogue and in your stories. That's a great place to write from. Real writers, good writers, if you're a racist, you won't be a good writer. You just won't. It'll hold you back. But real writers who are good writers, they love diversity of life because you use the diversity of the life and where you're coming from, where he's coming from, where she's coming from in so many different ways. The type of family upbringing that they had, the type of country they came from, the type of financial situation that they're in, the type of education level they have. All of these things are things that are played against one another. There's a group, and the one guy's smart and tough, but like he's arrogant. And then there's another guy who's really soft and dumb and insecure, and he's just like getting ripped on by the dude, and the other characters are sticking up for him. You create different dynamics when you have different group dynamics, different people representing different energies. This is what makes the world go round. At the same time, used in this fashion here, as these matching taste people come together and they claim success in the minority vote of how great things are going while the whole building is burning down around them. It's really crazy. I mean, this is exactly what's going on. This is exactly what I've been saying. And he summed it up so well. Soon there are only a select few of matching tastes that are buying or trading, and they think they're the entire world. They vote best opera trading card of the year amongst them, the tiny number, and are very thrilled with each other. And that's in reference to he was saying they do broccoli flavored bubblegum complete with trading cards of great moments in opera. It's like, inventing. It's just such a great analogy across the board of how people who like to put their nose up, people like to be first. You ever see it with music? It's like, no, man, I was there before. Like, they sold out. Now everybody thinks they're popular. I hate them now. Like, no, I'm not a fan of them anymore. Like that kind of thinking, like the elitist thing, like I'm going to get there. I'm going to get something that like nobody else has. It's really funny because I'm a little weird. I'm a little bit like that. I don't like to go where everybody's going. I like to go find things that aren't being appreciated and bring attention to them, and which is like to some I guess a little bit like that. But like my motivation is because I want like clearly everybody knows about that. So like what else is there that like we can find that'll be cool to offer, and try to add to the tapestry. But there's a slightly different motivation here. So it says here. We're not seeing superhero fatigue. We're seeing Brie Larson and crap writing. But I repeat myself all year long. Oh, I said that already. Spielberg thinks movies will go. Sadly, okay. This is Okay, so there's some other quotes here from some people. There's prolific Batman and Punisher writer Chuck Dixon, who I love. He's written so many wonderful things. He previously shared his thoughts on the subject with Bounding Into Comics back in June. So he said, quote, every movie cycle ends. Westerns give way to spies who give way to horror and on. The superhero genre has had an extraordinarily long run. End quote. As for why the superhero cycle is ending, he shared, quote, but a number of factors have contributed to drop in interest for comic book-based content, oversaturation, inconsistent quality, and Hollywood's restricted access to the Chinese market. You know, it's really funny. This like oversaturation and inconsistent quality. Inconsistent quality is definitely it. But the oversaturation thing, I don't even think is a problem. I think there has been and continues to be always with these things an homogenization of the process of what a superhero film is and all these things, because these producers are brain dead and they can't understand creativity. They don't understand that you create the archetype and then you play with the archetype, and the more you play and have fun with the archetype, the more fun the audience has. Instead, an archetype has been created. You know, part of that archetype is like the blue sky beam. You know, everybody talks about, oh, we got a blue sky beam in the movie. Well, the blue sky beam happens all the time. Why does it happen? Because the producers recognize that as the thing. You know, or if they see an opportunity, they're like, "Oh, get in one of those things because that looks like the thing." They're really masquerading. They're trying to do the thing. They're trying to offer us that thing that we want, but they don't really know what it is or how to get it. And so when they see success happen somewhere, they pick at the wrong things for why it's successful. Usually very superficial things like, oh, look, a blue sky beam. Maybe that's why this is successful. Oh, look, they're fighting an army of faceless things, so they get to do lots of action. Maybe this is why this is successful. Unfortunately, that's not why it's successful. It's never why it sounds successful. It's always very foundational. But they don't notice those super strong foundational things because basically they're not able to recognize that layer of the thing. They're not built to see the architecture in creativity and how wonderful things are built. And a lot of foresight has to go into things, similar to how you do the good creative stuff where like, you got to make sure that doors are left open instead of being shut. And so often, these silly, willy-nilly decisions are made at these superhero films and TV shows. Like literally, it'll just be some throwaway thing at the end of a movie where they could have said the line in any other way, but what they said suggests this, and that's, no, don't do that. That's a very bad idea. But they're like, aha, isn't it dramatic? Like, no, it's a bad idea. There's good ideas and there's bad ideas. And they don't necessarily know bad ideas when it comes to shock. And like, you know, they'll be like, oh, remember, people thought that was so shocking. Well, people thought it was so shocking because they were invested in some way, because things were set up in something. Like, you don't just do things because it's shocking. Like, if you have a show where it's like, we did something shocking and people liked it, often more shocking things will follow, and they will not be so shocking. They'll just be sort of like aggravating because they're not based on like the wonderful plot stuff and setup and like built to. It's just like, oh, we got to do something shocking. So it'll be like swerve, shocking, isn't it? No, you just killed one of my favorite characters for no reason. What the hell? You know, like that kind of thing. Let's see. As for why, oh, wait a second. Oh, oversaturation, inconsistent quality, and Hollywood's restricted access to the Chinese market. I don't know exactly what he means by that. Hollywood's restricted access to the Chinese market. I will say that the whole thing with the motivations with the Chinese market, it's really terrible. They're a communist regime, and they do some really heinous stuff to their people over there. I disapprove. Nix, you Chinese government, and not cool, man. Not cool. You won't let Tibet be a sovereign place. Like, there's a lot of weird shit that goes on. And I'm like, look, if you're Chinese, I got nothing against you, especially like if you're Chinese, I love you, and I don't like hearing that some of the people there are being subjugated in ways that they wouldn't be subjugated here in America. I wish for people to have freedom all over the world. And but if you're in the government that's oppressing them, bad, and they would censor this. Disney has done multiple things to censor themselves with regards to China. When they send posters over there, they cover up the black people. On the Black Panther poster, on the Star Wars Force Awakens poster, they did it with Finn and Black Panther. And there's more. Just to name a few, there's other ways in which they've disguised color and ethnicity by shading things a certain way for posters in China in particular and other places. They're a company trying to make money. but in changing our films and literally sending them to a communist country's regime for them to watch the movies and make sure that the film doesn't have anything that's objectable to China, and then getting notes and changing things so they can release things in China, and then perpetually adding to the list of you must do this and you must do this, includes a whole bunch of things that you must not do for the sake of China. Don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. That's some bullshit. That's some crazy shit. I mean, really, like what are you guys doing? It's like you can't throw away American ideals of freedom and give ourselves over to censorship by the Chinese government so you can get extra money for the movies in China. I mean, seriously, just like it's ridiculous. Next, Dixon pointed to the mismanagement of the most prominent superhero universes by both Warner Brothers and Disney. Both Disney and Warner are to blame as well. Marvel fans had to put up with a steady assault of woke content, an overbearing amount of comedy included in material. Yes, an overbearing amount of comedy included in material. Something that really just drowns your stakes, man. Really ruins it. Too much comedy can go a long way. I love a little bit of comedy. A little bit of comedy is wonderful, but some of these things are meant to be serious. Thor in particular, the freaking scope and the majesty of stories of the Asgardian people, the Norse gods. I mean, it's like that requires a bit of, I want to say pathos, but just sort of operatic stakes and seriousness. You can have laughs and lightheartedness. Braveheart's a perfect example of that. There's some wonderful comedy in Braveheart, but that should be the feeling of Thor, not Thor: Love and Thunder. I mean, what an embarrassment that movie was. I mean, really, Taika Waititi, dude, I love you, man. You really make some wonderful things, but your desire to antagonize the people who you think are what's wrong with the world in the populace by waving certain blatant political stances, you're just really misrepresenting and misunderstanding so much of the audience that you're doing that to, and you're misunderstanding their relationship with the material, their relationship with you through the work, and you're just really making audiences unhappy with you. You've turned yourself into a divisive figure when you used to be a really people were all behind you. And they could be again, but you keep doubling down on that antagonizing of fans and not recognizing what was really being said to you about what was going on. And you're so capable of giving the audience what they would have liked to see, and the audience deserves to have it, and we don't deserve to be antagonized for no good reason and get fucking weird Thor in a gay relationship with his hammer. That is nothing that's ever happened in the comics. I tried to enjoy it as best as I could, but I mean, it's really ugh, it's just so stupid. No. Let's see. Next, Dixon pointed to the mismanagement of superheroes universes at Warner and DC. Both Disney and Warner are to blame as well. Marvel fans had to put up with a steady assault of woke content, an overbearing amount of comedy included in material, a general decline in the quality of effects. Yeah, that's another thing. And most damaging, a deliberate departure from the source material at every opportunity. Yes, that was a big thing too. It seemed let's just depart from the source material because it's easier that way. And that was a major fucking problem. Don't you depart from the source material because it's easier that way. The source material is what I'm interested in. What are you fucking doing? It's crazy. Quote, DC screwed the pooch by constantly rebooting their franchises with new auteurs and casts. In addition, they diluted their brand with multiple different and conflicting continuities spread across TV and features. He asserted, which Batman is real? Who is the authorized Superman? Yeah, no, I definitely think so. And that TV stuff, the level of acting and quality of the television programs. My daughter loves the Supergirl one and Arrow thing, and I enjoy Arrow, and I've seen some of that stuff. But in general, I don't appreciate the quality. I don't like the quality of the acting, and it's really kind of just all feels small and cutesy and soap opera-y. I feel like I'm freaking watching Archie comics or something. I feel like that's superheroes for people who are more into what would be considered female entertainment, what do you call it, like soap operas and Archie comics, stuff like that. Like, people who aren't into action oriented stuff, more soap opera leaning stuff. And granted, there's some action and whatnot, but it's definitely a little bit more halfsies with that soap opera thing to appeal to, like, I don't know, like a teen girl and boy audience, I guess, is the hope that they're going for there. I don't know, but I can't stand those shows. And honestly, like, as they mix in the crisis and there's an appearance from this person and this person, like, it does kind of create this small world where it's all contained together, and they haven't exactly gotten the big tentpole shit right with Superman and other things. So I mean, the conflicting continuities, I really think, and I'm not sure because, well, I guess I'm sure enough after freaking Blue Beetle and everything else. We'll see with Aquaman. That'll be really the thing if DC is like really like dead and people are confused. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think they are beginning at the very least to confuse their audience, and I think Marvel's probably going to do the same thing, whatever it is, when they like start to make this change, whether they recast Captain America or any of this shit they're going to try to pull. It's gonna be a maneuver. They better really nail it, or it's the audience is not gonna freaking make the turn. Pointing. Oh, who is the authorized Superman? Which Batman? Okay, pointing to the most recent The Flash film, Dixon said, quote, "And they damned themselves with this latest Flash flick by leaning into the multiverse nonsense in order to cram as many cameos into this failed project as possible." Yeah, they did have a bunch of cameos, and they did definitely lean into this thing in a way that was just kind of silly. I mean, yeah, I mean, they could go any way. They could really go any way. It just definitely is that the whole multiverse thing is just, it does make things confused, but maybe they can streamline it from here. Dixon then rhetorically asked, quote, "Is it any wonder even dedicated fans are staying home and tuning out? With nearly every studio currently billions in the red, they can no longer afford to either produce more tentpole superhero flicks or even market and release ones they have in the can or in post-production," he concluded. Okay, so, I'm a guy, I do a lot of shit, I work in a lot of places, I'm a professional comic book writer. I've written, I don't know, like at least like 50 or 60 comics as a professional, whether they've been released or not. But I'm not Chuck Dixon. This man has written literally, I mean, probably thousands, and he is one of the most consistent writers in comics. I very, very rarely do I not care for anything that he writes. Usually, I'm very impressed with things he writes. Some things that he writes, I really, really love, and I've gone back and I've read multiple times. He's a wonderful writer. He knows what he's fucking talking about. He knows what he's doing, and he is sitting here going, dude, they're missing it. Saying all these same things. We're talking about the same thing. And it took a little while for more and more people to like be like, yo, this is just bananas. And you guys are tanking the thing we love. Because people didn't want to everybody was like, oh, racist and sexist, and like everything was being distorted because they weren't having the conversation. A lot of people still, they're not willing to actually have the conversation that we're having. They keep getting hung up on stupid shit. And they think that some little thing, it can be so revealing of personalities and who people are at their core. It's just absurd. Even DC Studios CEO, and I'm just going to go a little bit longer here. How much longer is this thing? Yeah, I'll finish it or whatever. Even DC Studios CEO James Gunn has admitted that the idea of superhero fatigue stems from poor quality films during an appearance on Michael Rosenbaum's podcast. He said, "I think that's what happens in people have gotten really lazy with their superhero stories," Gunn shared, and they have gotten to the place where, oh, it's a superhero, let's make a movie about it. And they make, oh, let's make a sequel because the first one did pretty well. And they aren't thinking about, why is this story special? What makes this story stand apart from other stories? What is the story at the heart of it all? Why is this character important? What makes this story different? That it fills a need for people in theaters to go see or on television. And I think that people have gotten a little lazy, he reiterated. And there's a lot of biff, pow, bam stuff happening in movies. Like I'm watching the third act of superhero films where I really just don't feel like there's a rhyme or reason to what's happening. I don't care about the characters. And they've gotten too generic. There's this sort of middle of the road type of genre tone that so many superhero movies, as opposed to having very different genres. I like very serious superhero movies. I like very comedic superhero movies. I like ones that are really just a murder mystery, but it's with superheroes. Doesn't it feel like he's talking about Blue Beetle right now? Gunn added, I like to see these different types of stories as opposed to seeing the same story told over and over and again. And I don't know how many times I think that also then people say superhero fatigue. I think that you see now that it's not a real thing. People are fatigued with repetition, and I don't think it's really just superhero movies. I think you're seeing it happening now. It's spectacle films in general. Okay, I'll finish that in a second. But yeah, what he's saying too about them, they're not thinking about why is this story special. They don't know. Like, to them, all of the superheroes look the same. They're not following the stories. They don't understand why a character is around. They don't understand that Carol Danvers is around because she was essentially sidekick to Marvel when he was popular, and she got upgraded along the way because there was love for her appearances in the Avengers, and she became a character that people were interested in, and they thought that they could do something with her. And they've written some decent stories with her in the comics, better than the stuff that they've put on film anyway. But they haven't done anything really classic with her. But at least that's what she is. That's where she's coming from. But you need to know they haven't done anything classic with her. We've written some decent things in the comics. You need to go find the things in the comics that are the best. And you need to bring in a really good writer to try to elevate that shit and make it even better while sticking to the thing that it is. You know, and thinking, you know, what is it? Why does She-Hulk work? Well, it's her character, and people really like her character because of these unique reasons. Why does Batman work? Why does Superman work? Superman works because he's the light. Batman works because he's the dark. Punisher works because he uses guns and he kills people. And Daredevil works because he beats the hell out of the people. And Spider-Man works because he doesn't do either of those things. You know, the different characters come down to their roots because they've been being published alongside each other for forever. They all have to be uniquely different in the publishing. But you don't understand how they're uniquely different and why they work or why they didn't work or don't quite work or haven't quite clicked or are clicking or have clicked in a small way or have clicked in this way or that way. So you need to know that in order to adapt any of these characters. And most of these people don't. So, I mean, like, that's, you know, the big thing there. Finally, Gunn added, but there's a lot of spectacle films made, and they just have gotten really generic, and they've gotten boring, and they aren't about characters, and there's no emotion to them, and there should be emotion in things no matter what. That should always be there, some type of emotion. I'm not saying it can't be really light. I'm not saying it can't be really heavy. I'm saying there should be some sort of emotion. Okay. And then First Class, X-Men First Class and Kick-Ass director Mathew Vaughn even remarked recently that a lot of current superhero films are bad. He said, quote, I think there's been so many bad superhero movies as well that it's like when the Western got. You make so many, then you get bored of the genre, not because the genre is bad, but because the films are so bad. Yeah, and the films are so bad, going back up to the dude who freaking left us in here in the first place, the stuff that I was so impressed by in just the beginning of this, Declan Finn. You know, it's because the freaking writers, the professional writers, they don't want to write this shit. Most professional writers, I think, they want to write about being starving artists in Brooklyn and write dramas about, like, mundane bullshit. Like, most writers, they're fucking boring, man. Most writers suck. The reason why I'm a good writer is because I write not because I write, is because I care about the audience. I've always just been looking at the audience and looking at myself as an audience member to begin with, going, ooh, I really like this, things like this, and studying those things and looking at more of those things and looking around and listening at the theaters and listening when people are laughing and listening people are saying when they're like, oh, I don't really like that. I do like that. Like, what are people saying? What do people like? What do people dislike? That's where you want to come from as a writer. What do others like? Not what do I like? And I think that's the fucking problem. That's what it boils down to. What do other people like is what will make all of the things that I write a success, as I try to make everything something that will really appeal and really make people happy when they read it. You know, other people who are writing for themselves, like I write for myself only as an audience member. I stay as an audience member, I stay as humble as an audience member, and then I write for myself from the audience. Not, here I am, and I am the god of my world, and all the things that Jesse Blaze Snyder is interested in must be all the things that you guys are interested in. I mean, literally, the next project that I'm doing as a Kickstarter is called Fucking for Our Future, and it's like a nude comic book. And it's because I see that there's this huge market there. I'm really kind of uncomfortable in that space, but there's a lot of money being made, and there's a market that really obviously wants that stuff, and a lot of the quality of the work isn't very good. And I started to think, you know what? I could do a really quality thing here, and I could satisfy this audience, and they would be very happy. And if I could figure out a way to do it where the nudity is part of the story, I won't be so mad about the nudity because I won't feel like the nudity is working against the story that's being told. And then I'll do something that's both like a nude comic and is cool, but is also, whatever. I mean, and our story is really fun. I'll give you the brief synopsis, and then I'm going to wrap this up because I'm going way over today. Was just basically 1,000 years ago on this planet Glon, the men and women went separate ways, and the men messed with their genetics and become like these Bigfoot creatures with giant penises because they basically turned penis envy into a thing of the past. Every generation of their Bigfoot children will have a penis slightly larger than the generation of the past, so there's no penis envy. It's always getting larger. So now some of the Bigfoot's penises have gotten like so large, what they called the three-legged men, so large that they have to like go to the ocean because they can't drag them around on land anymore. But I'm having such a fun time with this stupid book. And the women, they've got robots, and they're like these little petite ladies living up in like Eden and in the beautiful place that's just perfect and everything's good. But their cloning machines aren't working anymore. So now they build this like sexy power armor and they send it out into the wilderness to try to collect sperm samples from the three-legged men. But the three-legged men are no longer interested in their advances. So it ends up being like a Roadrunner cartoon, and the Roadrunner is the three-legged man who's not interested in the woman who's the coyote who desperately needs those semen, those sperm samples, and they're trying to use their feminine wiles, but the men don't care anymore about the feminine wiles. So it's a really funny book. I'm working at Fucking for Our Future, and I wouldn't be doing it even like as something for myself because it's not my sensibilities initially. Like, I mean, granted, you're able to find a place that you could come from that you'll like to do, but this nude thing was really like a wall for me, and I saw that there was an audience that was being clamoring for material, but I didn't think really being satisfied very well with a lot of material that was happening. And I was like, well, maybe I can satisfy this audience, and maybe I can turn that group of people onto my work and build from here. And I think I will. And it's a really cool thing that can happen when you start going with the audience and what the audience would like, as opposed to doing what you would like. And I really think ultimately, that's the nail on the head. That's the problem with Hollywood. They keep doing what they would like instead of what we would like. And that needs to change. Well, that's it, Coolest Geeks. I'm your passionate geek culture commentator, Jesse Blaze Snyder. You can write to me at jesseblaze@jessesnyder.com. I love you all so much. I look forward to hearing from you. Anyway, thank you for listening to my show, and I hope you'll join me again next Wednesday and this coming Saturday for another ass-kicking episode of The Coolest Geek Alive! Ha-ha!
It's my favorite part! Isn't it heavy? It's gonna be fucking awesome. Coolest alive. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Stay with your tribe. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Revenge of the Geeks. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Week after weeks. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Laughing with you. It's gonna be fucking awesome. And crying sometimes too. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Spelling it out. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Making you shout.
You've been listening to Coolest Geek Alive with me, your host, Jesse Blaze Snyder. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe for more excellent geek culture content. Thanks for listening.
You like that? It's a kazoo solo. I played that too. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Talking some shit. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Living your shit. My voice gonna be fucking awesome. Food in our mouth. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Get in the mouth. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Tell all your friends. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Call right or text. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Raising the bar. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Straight to the stars. It's going to be fucking awesome. Fucking awesome. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Just wait. You'll see. You'll all see.